Hey guys, fairly nice spring day. Figured I'd do my fuel filter on the Mercedes W202 C230. So I've got the filter ready to go, and first thing I want to do is start the car inside the trunk. I'm going to lift up the trunk cover, and beside the battery there's a fuse box, and there's a green relay in the fuse box. That's the fuel pump relay, and you can just, while the car's running, pop the fuse out of the fuel pump relay, and the fuel pump will stop, and that will depressurize the line slightly. We're still going to clamp off the lines to make sure the fuel doesn't spill out all over me, but I'm going to pull the pump relay fuse, and as you can hear, the car is now shut off. So we're going to leave that out, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, now I've turned the car off, jacked it up on jack stands, and down underneath the back you're going to need room to work on the right side under the rear suspension. The fuel, as you can see, the filter's right in there underneath this cover. Take this cover off and get to it. Anyway, just make sure you're under here, you're on jack stands. The car's now shut off, and I'm going to take this cover off, and I think it is 10 mils, but I will be back in a second to let you know. Okay, you're going to need a fairly long extension. You can use a 3/8 inch socket wrench or a 1/4 inch. They're not really tough bolts, so they're just small bolts, so I'm using a 1/4 inch with a long extension. And you can see there's 3 holes in the bottom of the fuel pump and fuel filter cover. And just slip your wrench up through, and as you can see, you can, once you go up through the hole, you can hit on the bolts and unbolt them. There's one. I don't know if you can see over here for the other two. Wow, it looks rustier up there on camera than it does in person, but it's probably pretty rusty up there on most of the cars. And again, I'm going to mention this again. This is one thing I love about Mercedes, is the quality of their fasteners. If this was a Honda, if this was a Toyota, these bolts would not come off. These would be rusted on permanently. Would never come off, but these are probably, they're galvanized. Well, actually, these are plastic. So, you know, someone knew enough from the beginning that if this stuff has to come off and it's under the car, they're not making it out of metal on metal, because it's just going to rot all to hell. So just, I don't know if you can see that. No, you can't really see the third one, but I'm on the front bolt, the last one, and it's just about off. And now the cover simply slips off. So there you've got your filter with your in and out, and your fuel pump and lines and mount. So this is bolted on in the center. There's going to be a screw there, which I'm not going to praise Mercedes on, because that looks like a Phillips screw that is probably going to be toasty. Shite. Okay, well, I'm going to see what I can do with this, and I'll be back with you in a second. Okay, so if you can see, I clamped off the fuel lines, the in and the out from the filter. I can't find my fuel hose clamps. I actually have a special set of fuel hose clamps, but C-clamps will work in a pinch, so that's what I'm using right now. I'm actually going to have to drill out this center screw here, this Phillips headed screw. So I'm just going to drill out the screw through there, and I'm not going to drill it out too big. I'm going to use a big drill bit right here, a larger drill bit to take off the head, and then I'm going to use a smaller drill bit to go through the shaft of the old screw, so I can just put something new in there, because it's there's no nut on the back. It just bolts through the mount there. So I'm going to take off the head of this with the larger bit, and then use a smaller bit to drill through the shaft, and I'll be back in a second because I need both hands. Okay, here's the head of the Phillips screw that came off with the larger drill bit. And as you can see up in there, the head of the bolt is off and the mount is loose now, but I still got to drill through that bolt shaft up in there, and with a smaller drill bit. So Okay, so the old bolt has been drilled out, and the mount, as you can see, is now loose, and the filter can now rotate. The pump can rotate as well, but you're not moving this. So I did notice when I was in here on some cracking. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not. There's a little bit of cracking on the fuel hose, so I'm going to have to be replacing that pretty soon. Anyway, that's not what I'm doing today. So I've loosened the two clamps on the end of the fuel line, and that will just pop off. There's probably going to be some fuel spillage anyway. This is coming out of the pump. So the pump's here, it's coming out of the pump, so this is the in, and this is the outside. This side's going toward the engine, and this is the inside. And on your new pump or filter, it's going to be marked in and out. So I'm going to pop these fuel lines off, and you'll probably get some spray or dripping of old fuel. Move my wrench because it's going to get covered in gas. Yeah, that's just unavoidable. Crap. Guess who didn't bring a pan out with him? Idiot. Shite. I'll be back with a pan. Okay, so I got a nasty old container for catching the fuel now. Sometimes your brain's just not thinking. So I gotta move this. That's just the old fuel draining out of the fuel filter. So anyway, I'm going to twist this end off, and again, this is the outside, other side is the inside from the pump, and I'll put the new one on, but I'll show you that in 2 seconds. Actually, before I go any further, I wanted to show you the nasty color of the fuel coming out the inside. Doesn't that look appetizing? It's like almost the color of oil. So, I don't think, well, actually this is probably the original fuel filter in this car. I have all the maintenance documents on this car from the original owner, and it was never done. It's not causing me a problem or anything. I'm having no driving problems. I've just decided that it's about time to change the damn fuel filter. Can't do everything at once, but yeah, look at that junk. Okay, let's dump the clean side so you can see the difference. Clean. Dirty. Anyway, enough of that playing. Remember when you're pulling the filter out to undo one side, and then you can slide the whole filter out. You're going to have to pop the hose off of one side. The side from the pump is probably easiest. And then you can just, because you've got a lot more room to move this hose, you can pull it back and off. And so we'll put this side back on, and then push it back in the mount, and attach the other side back in a second. Okay, the fuel filter is back in. The hose clamps are put back on the ends of the fuel lines, the in and the out. My fuel filter is marked out on here. It could just have an arrow on the can depending on what type of fuel filter, what brand. It's a Motorcraft. I wrapped a thing of Gorilla Tape just around where the mount is, just so it grabs on a little tighter. Now this mount, where the bolt goes through the middle, it's a bolt about 2 inches long, and on the other side of this mount is pretty rusty, and it wasn't grabbing a new screw. So I'm wrapping a band clamp around, like a big hose clamp. I'm wrapping around the center. It's going to tighten that up, and that is going to hold it firmly in place, and especially as this mount on the inside between the fuel pump and the fuel filter, it's kind of degrading a little bit, and so this is going to hold it together better than a bolt. I'm assuming that was the original fuel filter I pulled out. I don't think this has ever been off before. So I'm going to, once this is all tightened down, I'm going to hose all this stuff down with some anti-rust, probably fluid film. And other than that, I'm tightening this bolt in. Everything's done. You can start the car now to make sure there's no leaks before you put everything back together, which is always a good idea. I've already done that. There are no leaks, and I'm just going to tighten up this hose clamp and then put the cover back on the 310mm bolts, and that's about it. Hope that helps.